Now, India is vulnerable if we let lots of think tanks come and we don't have a good, robust think tanks of our own, and we don't have policies, and we don't have a way to counter, because all of this depends on a foundation of the grand narrative, and we don't have such a thing, then we are vulnerable, because the think tanks will become another way to intervene. Please listen to this carefully. We've had the era of people like Ford Foundation intervening through NGOs. So they have an ideology, and they give grants to certain NGOs, they give training, send them overseas, they listen to those who are dissent-oriented against Indian civilization, and they encourage them. We've been through another mode of another parallel track where universities are training Indian university people in JNU and TIS and many places like that to think on their wavelength, to think in this very fractured way, an anti-dharmic kind of way. We've had that. Okay, now they may think I'm attacking them, and I would say I'm just presenting an alternative point of view, just no different than, Heritage Foundation would do in the United States. And we have to be able to do that in India for ourselves. So that we've seen this intervention. We've also seen the intervention by seminaries, by church, funding Indian NGOs, Indian seminaries, Indian churches to do all kinds of work in the rural areas and in the mainstream. Now, I am concerned that the think tanks will become a method of intervention to win over the minds and hearts of Indian elite, westernized, young, bright Indian elite, globe-trotting elite, policymakers, government people, ministers' children, people who are in government, take somebody's son, take their daughter, take their nephew, niece, put them into some prestigious place overseas, send them abroad, influence them. This is how Ford Foundation did for NGOs, and before that the Soviets used to do, they used to take all these Marxists and send them off, and their kids and whatnot. So I think the benefits are huge for India to engage these American think tanks. But India needs a strong infrastructure of its own, the way China has. China has over 400 think tanks. And India has quite a lot, a couple hundred or so, but not the same stature, and also fragmented, fighting each other. There doesn't seem to be somebody in the government who is sort of evaluating the Indian think tank according to the Indian way, Indian criteria of what are the national policies and how consistent are each of these think tanks with, as per that. And we need somebody who's evaluating all the think tanks in the world according to an Indian point of view. We should have that. We should look at the output of an academic center like Columbia before somebody goes and says, I'll give millions of dollars to them. Shingeri or whoever want to give millions of dollars should have a database they can consult, so that they know whether it's a wise idea or not a wise idea to spend their money on this particular think tank or university or whoever.
और हमारे देश के लिए अगर सबसे बड़ी एक समाज की मन में एक आवश्यकता है, तो हमारी सोसाइटी हिस्ट्री कॉन्शियस होनी चाहिए. इतिहास को भुला देने वाली समाज व्यवस्था नहीं होनी चाहिए.